Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of the Syracuse Industrial Development Agency. We'll start by taking a roll call of the board members. I'm Kathy Murphy.
Ricky Brown.
And Kenzie.
Kirk Sonneborn.
Steve Thompson.
Thank you all very much. Proof of notice for the meeting was properly served. The minutes of our previous meeting held on October 29th were included in our packet. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Ricky, second by Ken. Any changes, comments, discussion items on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Before we start new business, I just want to remind everybody that we had intended to hold the public hearing for the Gateway project at this meeting. We held it over to our next meeting previously. We will continue to hold on the Gateway project, I hope, until our next meeting.
The next one or the regularly scheduled one?
Probably the regularly scheduled board meeting, which is December 17th, I believe. But we will keep you posted on that. Yes, Steve?
I thought you just changed it.
We're having 2 board meetings in December to celebrate.
We love
That
December.
was a trick.
Yeah,
So there's 3 meetings in
so we're having 3
Three
meetings
meetings.
in December, that's right.
You're gonna bring presents?
The first one is the 9th.
So we will meet on the 9th at 8 a.m. here. We will meet on the 17th at 8 a.m. here. And we're looking to schedule a finance committee meeting, which I need to just confirm with 2 other people prior to setting the date.
You can send us all those dates.
I'm going to send everything, yes.
And the cancellations as well for anything.
And
that was
yes,
canceled.
and the movements on the calendars. Okay, so I apologize for all of that, but got to do what you got to do. So Gateway, we hope will be on our regularly scheduled board meeting December 17th. New business items. First item is McGuire Auto Sue.
Morning, everyone. The first resolution in your packet for this morning is on the McGuire Family Limited Partnership. It's the McGuire dealerships that we have been working with. They closed on their project with the agency in December of 2020, and they are now looking to refinance their mortgage. The original principal balance was just over $16.2 million, and they're looking to refinance with a new principal balance of not to exceed $16.5. As you know, your lease agreements anticipate cooperation in a refinance, and so we are looking for authorization to execute and deliver all of the necessary refinancing documents. Any participation is, of course, contingent upon the company paying all of your administrative and legal fees and ensuring that they are fully compliant with their reporting requirements, which I believe we have already confirmed. And they are current on their pilot.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions, comments, concerns? Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Ken, second? Second. Steve.
Everybody.
I'll take it from Steve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 400 West Division Street, or as we know it, rapid response.
Correct.
Eric.
Good morning, everyone. So the request before you today would be to provide an additional sales tax exemption for a 6-month period. The current sales tax exemption period would expire on December 31st of 2024. The project is still actively ongoing. Right now, the estimates are the project is approximately 75% complete. Just to remind the board, this is a mixed-use building located on Solar and West Division Street. It's an expansion of rapid response and would be adding jobs and expanding their operation, but it also is an addition of 28 market rate apartment units as well. So the project itself has been under construction. There had been, and the applicant had shared with us in the last extension, that there's been some soil conditions and site work that was additionally needed. More recently, there's been additional water table issues, particularly with the soil and groundwater. They're still actively under construction, but the site work has caused additional delays and some additional cost overruns, which is part of why the project is still under construction. More recently, there is an elevator that is requiring a significant amount of work as part of the project because of the groundwater requirements. But all of that to say that the request before you would be to extend, rather than the expiration being on December 31st of this year, extending through June 30th of next year, 2025. Project is still moving forward as planned. Work is taking place on a daily basis, but this additional exemption would allow, or the extension itself would allow the sales tax exemption period to be applied towards purchases made for the first 6 months of next year. So happy to take any questions. We are joined by a representative on behalf of the project.
David's here.
Yes, so David Pida on behalf of the project
Morning,
is
David.
with us.
Good morning, everyone. Can I just also
Yeah.
add to what Eric noted is they have been approved for state and local sales and use tax exemption in an amount not to exceed just over $2 million. To date, they have only used approximately $1.2 million, so they have not exceeded the amount of their award. And they are not seeking any additional award, just an extension of their time.
Just the time extension.
Correct.
Not the dollars.
And the budget is still, I saw a budget around 17 million, right?
Yes, correct.
Can you come up for just a second, please? Thanks.
As long as you came here this early.
I know, right? Might as well talk to us.
Morning, everybody.
Name and address, please. Good morning.
David Pida, 400 West Division Street, Syracuse.
Great, thanks. Ricky, your question.
Yeah, so, David, your budget was still in and around 17? Has your
Yes.
budget changed significantly with any of these?
Yeah, funded by our capital, yes. It
So
has.
out-of-pocket costs?
It
for
has.
so and everything. Okay.
Correct.
That was it for me. I just wanted to see if that had significantly changed.
Any other questions?
I was surprised, David, to see that you're only roughly 60% of the way through the expenditure, if you will. Are you, seems like you're further along in the project beyond 60%, especially if you think you're going to be done by June 30th.
It looks from the exterior because we've just laid all of the site work, landscaping, so it looks more complete on the exterior, but the interior, we wanted to get it closed up for winter.
Yep.
So we're working diligently inside to finish the apartments and commercial space. So
There's a lot of expenditure there. Thank you.
that's left.
Should have known because I
Correct.
read that it was the exterior that was. Thank you.
Elevators.
Elevators, fit and finish for the commercial space, for residential space.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for David? Thanks
Luck.
so much, David.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to seeing it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It looks great.
It does look great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks,
Thank
same to
You as well.
Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dirk, second by Ricky. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Near West Side Initiative. Sue.
Morning, everyone. We received a request from the Near West Side Initiative project, which closed with the agency in 2009, to exercise their right to terminate their lease transaction early. That's due to the fact that they are looking to sell the property in an effort to address some mortgage arrears. And they have the right to exercise that under their lease. They are compliant with their reporting, and they are paid to date on their pilot agreement. I will note that they are near the end of their pilot term in any event, and that they are almost paying 100% of assessed value anyway, because that's how your pilots work. You phase in, and in the last few years, you're within 1 or 2% of full market value. So this is simply a request for them to exercise their right and to have you execute any necessary termination documents.
Building that has the art center on the bottom there with the apartments on top?
The Lincoln Supply Building, correct,
Lincoln
yep.
Supply, okay.
Which is both residential.
It's not the art building, that's
Okay.
Delavan.
It's the Liga. It's on the ground floor.
Yeah.
And I'll just note for the record, I was on the board in 2009 of the Near West Side Initiative. I don't think it creates a conflict.
So Delavan is the
Got it.
artists' collaboration on the first floor.
And La Casita has been involved as a tenant
That's-
there in the past.
that's what I was
So,
saying.
okay, that
That's
might have
what I
been
was
what you were
saying.
thinking of, but yep.
It's La Casita. Okay. Other questions?
One other one, I'm so sorry.
Sure. No. That's why we're
Was
here.
that the building that had the state considerations against it as well, Eric? Is that the impetus behind this? I know that there were some issues with the state with that building, I thought.
This dating back to when the building was first under construction, or do you
I
know?
thought just last year there were some considerations for some liens or something.
Well, I think that that's actually what we're referring to right now. So the project was financed by CPC. They had been actively working with CPC, and one of the things is that the property itself had been marketed for sale for quite some time. So CPC was aware of the fact that there was an intention to sell. And one of the things now with the buyer officially under contract, everything is moving forward, but termination of the pilot is part of that. But there was,
But that was the mortgage arrears was referring to that.
Correct.
That's,
Correct, that's what you read,
gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Yep,
So
and-
the sale, as confirmed by the applicant's statement, will,
Pay in full.
will pay it in full the mortgage to sales.
CPC is, they're fully aware of that, so that all
And
of.
they are an involved party, that's
Yep.
right.
And support it.
Right. Yes. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Make a motion to approve the authorized determination, or whatever we need to do. The motion.
Thank you.
Approve my motion.
Motion made by Dirk to authorize the resolution. Second by Ricky. All in favor? Please say aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, 800 South Wilbur Avenue, Syracuse LLC. Eric Ennis.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to just open by just identifying the request itself right now as it relates to this agenda. So the purpose and intent of this is that the agency has received a new application for a new project. Right now and this morning, what we are asking, or what the board is being asked to consider, is authorizing a public hearing in which we will discuss the project in a full extent in terms of the project itself, the details, the redevelopment, and we'll also plan to discuss in the coming weeks as we move ahead and get those final dates scheduled for December. But I did also just want to give some of the background and context of history as it relates to the site right now, and particularly some of the involvement within the city of Syracuse. So this is, the request is for phase one of what we are calling the Syracuse Developmental Center Redevelopment, or SDC is the acronym that we use. Just some of the history of the site itself is that this facility itself is approximately 660,000 square feet that's existing there today, which is actively under demolition. The site itself closed in 2010. This was a facility that was built and run and managed by the state of New York. It was built in 1970. The state had put it up for auction, and ultimately it was purchased by a private developer who was really unsuccessful in being able to redevelop the property itself. It really had a very distinct use as an institutional facility. Over a period of time, the property fell into significant disrepair and tax delinquencies, so the building itself was in extremely terrible condition by the time the city was able to successfully tax foreclose on the property in 2019. By doing that, that gave the city full site control. This is a property that had been a nuisance for quite some time for the surrounding neighborhood and area. And what ultimately the city did was undertaking, we brought on a commercial real estate broker, really marketed this property far and wide. So both regionally and nationally, we did see considerable interest in redeveloping the site itself. At the same time, the mayor and the city formed a committee to review and vet different proposals for potential buyers. That was ultimately where we identified and successfully brought on board the Albany's organization, which is part of this ask that's before you today. At the same time, the state, with support from Governor Hochul, was also then involved in pledging $29 million that would be used towards demolishing the full structure as it exists today. So that demolition has been underway since June of this year, actively underway right now still, and will continue through April of 2025. But that demolition was really a key part of reimagining the entire site itself. It's approximately 48 acres. And at the time, and what we've been saying for several years, is really wanting to reimagine this property for the future of creating an entirely new development and a blank canvas, and the demolition has been a big part of that. So that kind of fast forwards us now where the Albany's organization, as part of that applicant, which is again 800 South Wilbur Ave, Syracuse, is the actual entity itself, but an affiliate of the Albany's organization, was selected by the city. We had developed a master plan for the entire 48 acres itself, which was adopted and passed by the Common Council last year. So what we are talking about today is what we're referring to as phase one of the redevelopment. That is this project in and of itself, which is the first of what will be multiple phases of the overall master plan for the development. So the project itself, just to give a little bit of some of the specs, would be 2 residential apartment buildings totaling up to 261 units. The project itself will be a tax credit project, will be a range of different income levels at different rents. And one of the other elements, which while separate from this particular ask, is that townhomes will also be constructed as part of the development, and those will be undertaken by home headquarters. And so those will also be available for sale for acquisition. And while the request itself, which is part of the public hearing, is for primarily the residential apartment buildings, Phase 1, as we are defining it, also incorporates the building of those townhomes as well. So the development itself is a project that has been in the planning stages. We've been actively working closely with the developer, with the applicant, to really be able to reach a stage where now there's ultimately the amount of financing has been identified, a number of different plans and construction projects and designs have been put together. So basically the step that is being brought to you this morning would be formally authorizing that public hearing, and ultimately then we would be able to discuss the project in much more detail and also be able to answer any questions directly from the applicant. We do have representatives here today on behalf of the applicant. So I'm happy to answer any questions directly, and also, again, we have representatives here to do so as well if needed.
You said Phase 1, Eric, you're going to have 260 apartments,
Correct, yep.
and then you're going to have 27 townhouses?
27
All that's going to be
townhouses,
part
yep.
of Phase 1?
Yes, yep. So then those will be under construction. It will be while Home Headquarters and Albany's, who are actively working together, they're also working with the same architect. You know, we're also trying to really think thoughtfully about the design and how those two things complement each other. But so yes, two projects that will be underway at the same time as part of the same phase, and it's the 261 units that the Albany's organization will be undertaking.
You're saying the demo is going on now, and that should be completed by
April, yep.
And when would construction start?
Yeah, so in addition to the private development itself, the city has been actively involved in new roadway infrastructure, sewer main, water lines, sidewalks, all of that work will construct a new roadway that will also make this a shovel-ready site for development. So soon after demolition is completed, the city has been working actively on the design of those roadways, and so it's meeting city specifications. We would start on the infrastructure work, and then essentially, and all of this is based on timing of closing and financing, but essentially it would prepare the site for the private development to get underway soon after that.
Will that impact, I know that, I think there's one road in the Fowler there, right, along that back stretch?
Yeah,
Is
there's.
that going to impact schooling at all, right?
Well, there's so there is some residential streets that are kind of directly between the site and between PSLA. I think there's Nelson, Magnolia Street, and so one of the
One way's that way, too.
correct. Yes, yeah. I think that it's part of the master plan. Well, and one I should note too, there was a robust amount of discussion that we had between common councilors, between neighborhood residents in the surrounding area. You look at Wilbur Ave and 800 South Wilbur, right? That's the address. We're really looking at ways to, while this was always more of an isolated site, just almost completely separate from the neighborhood, the townhomes themselves will actually front on Wilbur to really kind of build into reflect the character. So it's almost we're trying to find ways to incorporate the site into the neighborhood itself. So this has been a unique project just because of the city's, because of the fact it's still city-owned land today, but ultimately there is a contract agreement in place right now with Albany's, and we'll be bringing Home Headquarters into that as well.
I think you said we were joined by Ellen Kackman, who is the Senior VP for Albany's organization, as well as their counsel. If anybody wants to ask any further questions, I'll just remind everybody we're only here to authorize a public hearing, at which point in time we will have lots of materials, I hope, to show more of what we're talking about, visuals instead of words. But any questions, comments,
The question I had,
concerns?
I've asked a couple of different people, Eric and whoever, I'm curious to know whether you are anticipating any resistance to, when we have the public hearing, is there going to be a line out the door, people speaking opposed to this in any way, or?
In defense of Eric, he can't possibly.
How would he know that?
Anticipate, though.
But he's done a phenomenal job, and I will let him speak. But there's been an enormous amount of public outreach in the neighborhoods.
Outrage or outreach?
Outreach.
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 She works for us.
Just looking at
Yeah.
And it has been positive, but Eric,
Yeah.
I'll turn it
Well,
over.
thanks. So I think just one of the things we recognize and realize just the uniqueness of this property. When I say uniqueness, I also think as an opportunity too. So I would say from the very beginning and from the moment the city seized the property through tax foreclosure, there has been significant community dialogue and robust engagement. And that, the site itself it almost flanks both in the Tip Hill neighborhood, but then you also have Skunk City and you have the near west side. And so at various points over the last 5 years, there has been discussion that I personally have had, but also members of neighborhood and business development and the mayor's office about how do we reimagine the site and how would we like to see this 48 acres get redeveloped? If you ask everybody, housing was the number one item that was identified in terms of, one, just the moment that we're at in this community and the need for it. But I think another piece was job creation. And while completely separate from the Albany's development, we also have land that's identified for a light manufacturing, advanced manufacturing facility that would be commercial, that would be a significant job creator as well. And while we are still working to identify those tenants, the thought process was development of new housing, a mix of housing as well. We have the ability with the townhomes and we have the affordable apartments, very mix and diverse mix of incomes. We have job creation, and with all the new infrastructure, this is essentially going to be a new extension of a neighborhood here within the city on a land and size parcel that we've really never had before. So I would say even leading up to this stage and leading up to the plans that we have before us and leading up to this public hearing, we have continued to work with the Common Council, keeping the councilors informed, working closely with neighborhood residents. There are members of the community that are more neighborhood leaders that have been involved in this project. We've informed them of these latest plans and the latest updates that have come before us for phase one. And I can never predict what might happen in terms of a public hearing. There has been a lot of intentionality around making sure the community is informed. And the last thing I would say is that everything we are talking about today is in keeping with the master plan that was approved back in 2023, approved by the elected body of the legislative branch of the city, which are represented by the city residents. So I think that we've worked really, really hard to just make sure that what we are talking about today is reflective of what the city is looking for. So does that answer your question?
No. So you do not anticipate significant opposition yet? You're not aware of any significant opposition forthcoming?
Correct. So the short answer to your question is no. And I would say that in all of the conversations that I've had around this phase and this project, it has been overwhelmingly positive. So
I would just add, if I'm evaluating home headquarters' involvement in terms of any residential development, I've never seen any significant opposition to any of the projects. I think intrinsically the work that they do has spoken over the last 30, 40 years, but I think having them as a partner in terms of community engagement and outreach, I think will be critical. No one, I think, has a better sense of what neighborhood residents need and require in terms of residential housing. So I think even having them on as a partner is going to, bode well for the project in and of itself.
Even if Carrie will be here next week? Quagley or somebody from home headquarters?
At the hearing.
Absolutely. Yep,
Yes.
we would intend to have design team as well as the applicant, and then that would include Albany's and home headquarters.
And the visuals, so that everybody can see it, as I said.
Correct. Yep.
But all we're doing is trying to authorize a
Public
public
hearing.
That's all we're trying to do.
So for the moment, Ken, that's the goal.
Just wanted to know whether I should have one cup of coffee or two. That's all I wanted to
You
know.
gotta hold up, Dirk.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ricky. Second, Ken. Last call for questions, comments, or concerns. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Blah, I can't even talk anymore. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Is there any further business that anyone wishes to bring? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Ken, second by Ricky. All in favor, yes. Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh, be safe.
Be safe, have fun. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. And have a wonderful rest of the week.
Yes. See you on the night.
How you doing?